So, hello, welcome back to Supernova Labs. It is a new month, and apparently there is a resolve. Also, I promised myself. To commit to building space planes. And making this dream come true. Because it is all there is. Just been on the phone today with UK Space Accelerator and colleagues from other companies. Discussing how to get to the next step, which is to put a bid in for the National Space Innovation Programme. So I've got pages of notes on who to speak to, what kind of credibility I need to build, and the kind of partnerships that I need to gather, because I think this is one thing that I think was quite rightly isolated today, is that for all of the will in the world, and as much as a man can dream about this future, in the UK people care about credibility, and it's one of those things where I've never run a project this big. I've worked in teams that have run projects of a similar size, and well, when I say similar size, I mean building a facility, not like building space planes. But yeah, the next step would be to build a facility. Actually, we had a lab in London that was kind of a prototype of our first facility in Dalston. We had like 3D printers and virtual reality headsets before they were even like a big thing, because that was what we were trying to do, is bring all this technology together to lend its weight towards positioning space as an infrastructure program, bringing in the stakeholders and showing them what space could be in the UK, who are now, some of those stakeholders, the leaders of the UK space industry. So we're in a good place. So yeah, going back into building a facility. How much would you need? 100,000? 5 million? Because it ultimately depends on the use case, and we need to have everything we need to print engines, whether they're the size of these little tiny engines here, or the size of the spaceplane engines. I think there's some early indicators that we have the right, well, we know the right people to get on board to develop spaceplane engines, put them out to students with competitions, and ultimately get customers. This is the big thing. You need to start speaking to customers about what they do with their engines and what kind of facilities and funding they needed and support, and where in their life cycle they needed to start thinking about this. So it gives us a clearer indication of where we need to target ourselves. It's all promising. It's all promising. the fear is still there, but as I was saying last week, eventually you reach a point where it's just you need to just leave that behind and just keep moving, because life's not going to wait for you to stick around and wait for you to have everything sorted out before you start. And sometimes the difficulty is just in taking the first step, which is kind of where we've been for a long time. Not that first step, but just focused on the next day, focused on building small things every day that all build up towards this larger thing. But I think something that I isolated last week is that so far as I have all these plates spinning in all these different fields, I need to get better at directing that energy towards achievable milestones such that it builds up, right? Classic thing, right? Quarterly milestones, as some of the businesses have, right? Oh man, it's funny because it kind of feels it's like half of me is like, yes, absolutely, very, very necessary. Take the structure seriously. It clearly works. Two, it's like the other half of me is like, this is a LARP. Like, just this, all of this is unnecessary work. Like, all we need to do is just get in and cut metal and print metal and stick it on a test stand and test fire it, and all this justification for like why it needs to happen, or like you need to get the right stakeholders in the right place and playing politics with the people that own the facilities and all this kind of thing. It's just, that is just so foreign to me. I just don't. It's not that. Do I enjoy it? I don't know. Does anybody enjoy it? I don't know. Enjoy the parties. They're good fun. Doing the networking at the parties is fun. Actually getting conversions to like formalized contracts and invoices at the end of the day, that is my weak point, and I know it is. Yeah, I guess this is it, right? I've laid out a plan. It's just a case of executing against it now. Well, not that I haven't been executing on it for the past however many years now. It's just in this iteration, right? This is the way that I found it works. That typically, when you have a business that runs for a longer period, there's you go through phases of like needing to reiterate the same point and reiterate it with new information, right? This is why 5-year plans, yes, I mean, they're great social proof, and why, yes, having all the documentation and being able to prove credibility, social proof, right? But you get to the end of the year and there's new technology that makes that 5-year plan out of date. So for a sole trader or like a small business, the ends don't justify the means in terms of going that far out. So having like the plan that's like stepwise but unresolved down to like month by month goal, like what do you call it, quarter by quarter, has served me up until this point. Now it's not serving me. Or maybe it's never served me and I've just never been aware of it. Yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to these guys up on my whiteboard. This is Privateer and Wayfinder app. So this is a map of all of the space junk in the sky right now. So you can see all the little green bits around the Earth and all these pink dots. These are all individual pieces of junk that need to be cleaned up. Well, I mean, not the active satellites, obviously, unless somebody wants to go into piracy, but who am I to judge how they use their space planes? I'm here to build the tools. But yeah, I mean, I think just with the scale of it, I think we're going to reach a point where automated solutions aren't going to be enough to go and pick up all this stuff. You're going to have to literally send people to go and collect this stuff. And it will mandate having facilities on orbit to reprocess all of this material, which will be an industry in and of itself. But if we can provide the transport, and people can just fly up there from their garage, I think that would be a pretty good place to get to. I'd be very happy if we got to that place within my lifetime. And I mean, it sounds wild when you put it that way, but I mean, just over 100 years ago, we couldn't even fly. So the pace of development is just going to accelerate. Especially if some of the technologies that I've been looking at start like really resolving themselves down to actionable engineering. Yeah, I'm fairly confident that within the next 5 or 10 years, somebody is going to solve like mass reduction by, like, I don't know whether it's like current flows or like electric field engineering, where like somebody finds out it's coupled to the space-time metric somehow, that with like high voltage electrical impulses you'll be able to like reduce the mass of an object, hopefully within a form factor that doesn't mean that the craft itself is heavier than the mass reduction. Physics can be a bit of a bitch like that. But yeah, any mass reduction is good. Any mass reduction is good. Any mass reduction is necessary to get to the point I'm talking about, where you have space planes in your garage, because the form factor of a garage, right? So let's say like 4 foot by 7 foot, like max size that this can be. Maybe afford to like fold up the wings so they can fit. But yeah, that's going to mandate mass reduction, because I did a back of the notebook calculation a long time ago after like seeing this. So I built a model of the Comet, which was our larger version of this SSTO spaceplane, like with just traditional chemical rocket physics, and it was huge, just absolutely enormous. When I pulled it up to like full scale, it was as tall as like the fully stacked Starship, and that's just not feasible. It's just not feasible to have that in everybody's garage. So it's mandated going, let's say, a little bit left field, into the weeds and onto the fringe of physics to go and find the things that nobody wants to talk about, because, well, for fear of retribution or looking like an idiot. Because that is where the things lie that are absolutely world changing but just cannot find the purchase. I'm not afraid of going there, so long as it's attempted and grounded in a scientific method and understanding of the laws of physics and how they might bend. Right? It's not a case of breaking the laws of physics. It's a case of engineering the glitches so you can kind of bring relativistic physics up to bring quantum physics up to a macroscopic level, or relativistic physics down to a human level, right? I think that's going to be the real kicker of this century, I bet. When people start, I think this is one of the things that really came out of the last century. Because I remember I read a book from, I used to hang out in Manchester Library when I was first getting started, and I had no money, and I had nowhere to work. So yeah, there was this section in the library upstairs, the reference library, has like all these old books. I remember finding one. It was like really like a woven cover book on the nature of science, written in 1914, I think it was, and basically just going through what was science back then, right? And it was really interesting because like the way they thought about science was like very different to the way we think about it today, and that like they were very aware that they were wrong, right? And the like I think that's not the exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing now. Is that to save all of the libraries from having to stock an infinite amount of paper and an infinite amount of books, is beholden on the next generation to summarise our generation's work in a paragraph. And I think that really underscores this whole process of like everything keeps evolving and moving, and there's really been a period of stagnation in physics, like really like fundamental physics, for about 70-80 years, where people accept the laws as given and nobody really questions the axioms that people have had for many decades. And it all starts by asking a question: well, what if gravity and electromagnetism are the same force? How did gravity... Well, how was gravity... Einstein's field equations proven in the first place? Like how did he get to those equations? Like what proof did he use to get to that? What maths was underpinning that? And what maths is underpinning electromagnetism? And then you start seeing like correspondence, and it's like, oh, actually they're using the same stuff here to get to different answers. Like, why are they getting different answers? And sometimes it's like, well, there are very clear reasons why they're just applying the same tool set to different phenomena. But then other things are more grey, and it's like, oh, actually maybe they haven't like fully resolved how these are different. So it opens up questions, and it's important to question your assumptions, right? This is the whole premise of science, right? I hope we haven't forgotten this. It's the difference between science and scientism, right? Faith in science is not science. But yeah, interesting stuff happening in the world. I just hope we can capitalise on it and build something that'll leave a mark. That's all I really want to do. That's all anybody wants to do, right? Leave a mark. And hopefully not make too much of a tit out myself in the process. Right, well, have a wonderful week. I hope everything goes well. You slay all your meetings, your coursework comes back 100%, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are in life. Speak to you next time.